As the two teams square off, Angel repeats the professor's order to kill the imposters, and the two teams move to clash with each other as Stephen Lang laughs of how he's won and that his dream of exterminating all mutants will finally come to fruition. The teams finally clash together, with every hero striking out at the other team. Storm yells for the others to stop fighting and that they need to sit and talk, urging Nightcrawler that they need to make them understand. Kurt, however, says it's too late, and the original team is out for blood as he sees Xavier screaming for the old team to kill them all. Nightcrawler narrowly dodges an attack from Beast as he remembers that he'd grown hairy and joined the Avengers as he clings to the wall. Hank, though, denies the claim and seeing that his opponent isn't coming to him, leaps up and strikes, knocking Nightcrawler back and into Cyclops as he apologizes. Turning, he asks why the leader is fighting them when they should be going after Steven, and notices that his visor is different. Before he can do anything, though, Scott unleashes an optic blast while saying that he's the threat. Wolverine, seeing his friend take the blast head-on, grows angry as he claws towards Iceman, who's busy freezing him in place. Breaking free, he is then grabbed by Angel and carried into the air before he can strike, and threatens to slice off Warren's wings. Before he can, though, he's thrown into Colossus, who is unable to move out of the way. Gathering themselves, Peter is shocked by the raw hatred in Warren's voice, and preparing themselves, Wolverine is grabbed and launched by Colossus using the fastball special technique. Before he can join his friend, though, Peter is struck by Havoc at full force and finds himself in pain, even in his armored form. Pushing past the agony, though, he charges into the stream of energy and, grabbing a steel girder, strikes at his assaulter, intent on stopping his attack on his friends. Turning to Storm, she's trying to reason with Jean, who she's noticed is weaker. However, Jean doesn't recognize her despite the time they've spent together. This, however, lets Aurora realize that she's not herself and conclude that they're the imposters when she is struck from behind by Polaris' magnetic blast. With Storm pinned under the rubble from the attack, the two move to finish her off when they're assaulted from behind by a sonic screech. Seeing that they're outmatched, the pair decide to regroup with the others as Banshee and Colossus move to free Storm. Banshee also wants to regroup for the next attack when he demands to know where Wolverine is, and the Canadian yells back that he's going after Xavier himself, wanting to know what's going on or else he'll attack him. Charles, though, is unafraid as he stands up from his chair, claiming that his mind blast alone will finish the mutant off, but strikes with his fist instead, knocking Wolverine back. Charles is prepared to face off, and before Wolverine can get back up, is caught between the mental powers of both the Professor and Jean. Drowning in pain, he's left to only his instincts to save himself, as Jean tells Charles that it's almost over. Wolverine agrees, but states that it's the other way around and that, like an animal, he can distinguish people with scents, voices, and feelings. Yelling that she isn't Jean, he viciously strikes out as all the others recoil in horror, and Banshee screams, wanting to know what he's done, as Steven, seeing this, quickly switches cameras to see what's happened. Seeing the remains of Jean, who is merely a robot, Steven screams in fury of how the new X-Men should have died, as his X-Sentinels were the ultimate in anti-mutant technology, but that the fight isn't over. Reminiscing on how it all started, of how he oversaw finding out why mutants exist, he was able to get access to Trask's files where he saw the threat of mutants and went to the Council of the Chosen, who had their own plans for the mutants. He planned on betraying them, though, as they wanted to control mutants instead of killing them, so he invented the X-Sentinel. Continuing of how it was that the first victims were to be the X-Men, he notices one of the tubes behind him growing hot and it explodes when Cyclops steps forth. Shooting an optic blast, he frees the others, and seeing this, Lang turns to run as Scott calls him a coward. Yelling as he flees, he tells that as a man he's more than the mutant will ever be as he reaches a flying gunship. Firing upon the hero, Scott retorts that of all the villains he's faced, he's never met one he's hated until him. Shooting at the ship, he hits it as he asks who he thinks he is to be their executioner for being different, while Jean telepathically begins operating the machine itself. Determined to win, Lang tries to break free of Jean's control as he tries to activate the ship's thrusters, but finding the controls are still jammed, sees himself heading for the screen, unable to turn as he screams out for them to help him. However, the ship crashes and explodes when Colossus and the others arrive to find them alright, and Banshee yells that with the fire spreading they need to hurry and evacuate as the rest of the staff already have. Reaching their own shuttle, Cyclops knows that there isn't much time left, but Peter tells him that he's wrong as the controls are shot from the fight with the Sentinels. Wolverine asks about a manual re-entry, but Peter is skeptical as there's a hole in the shuttle's hull and the pressure suits are all destroyed and that there's more. Kurt remembers the solar flares, which Peter tells are the worst ones in years due to hit, and that they were going to be shielded by the shuttle's life cell, and that unless there's someone who can both pilot the craft and survive the flares, they'll die, but there's no one that can. Jean then volunteers to Scott's distress as she doesn't know how to pilot when she absorbs all of Peter's knowledge on how to run the craft. Scott grabs her, wanting to know how she plans to survive, as Jean replies that her powers will filter the radiation and she knocks him out before he can continue, telling Banshee to take him to the shielded room. Wolverine steps forward, asking what she's trying to prove, sacrificing herself when she turns to him and tells him off and how she doesn't know why she's tried to like him. Aurora also steps forward when Jean cuts her off, saying that she has the best chance of them all to survive. Asking the gods to watch over her, Storm turns to leave when Jean asks her to tell Scott that she loves him, and moving to the rip in the hull, seals it with a scrap of wreckage. Taking control of the shuttle, she's thankful that it's as strong as it is, as she reverses it in a hurry to escape from their radiation and get back to Earth. With only a minute before the flare hits, the others are forced to restrain Scott as he's trying to reach Jean, and they apologize as he comes to grips with the reality of what's happening. Jean sees that they have 27 minutes until they reach Earth when she realizes that the barest hint of the flare is already pushing her powers to the limits. Another minute goes by and the strain is unbearable when her telekinetic screen gives way and the radiation comes through, and Jean only has enough time to scream out the name of the one she loves.